We've all seen the pile on against Craig Kelly these past few days. Labor and the Greens and the media all seeking to silence him, railroad him, accuse him of demeaning the public debate, being irresponsible about the way he's aired medical research and opinions about pandemic treatments. It's a shocking pack attack, and I'll talk to a doctor in a short while who says that Craig Kelly is right. But let's look for just a minute at how the left has been conducting itself in political debates over the past little while too. And let's consider how the media treats some of this lefty lunacy. Let's start with Labor Senator for Western Australia, Sue Lines. Here she is, sitting in the Senate in Canberra, a job created by the modern nation of Australia and paid for by Australian taxpayers. And look at what she posted on social media last month. We showed you this before. She said, Australia Day celebrates white supremacy. A Labor senator, a member of the Australian Parliament, arguing that her own nation, the very democracy she represents, her own national day, is a celebration of white supremacy. Has Labor admonished her? Has the Labor leader, the alternative Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, criticised her, called on her to apologise, warned her? Nah, carry on. Has the Canberra Press Gallery hunted her down in the corridors demanding an explanation or an apology? Of course not. There's a leave pass for this sort of obscenity. So what about the union movement running a violent and offensive ad? At a time when terror attacks overseas and shocking crimes and accidents at home have seen many innocent pedestrians run down and killed in unspeakable crimes and tragedies, this union ad portrays the Prime Minister as a murderer using a bus as a weapon.
Australian workers have been doing it tough lately. But now Scott Morrison is using this crisis as an excuse to roll a whole bunch of new workplace laws together into one big omnibus bill. It will leave Australian workers with lower wages, less power and worse conditions than ever. The omnibus bill will hurt Australian workers.
Just sick stuff. I've shown it to you before. The Attorney-General Christian Porter called it out. But does the head of the ACTU apologise, criticise or condemn the ad? What do you reckon?
I reckon that that's fake outrage by the Attorney-General. If that's the most offensive ad he's ever seen, he hasn't watched enough TV. And I think that that's really a distraction from the fact that, you know, we should be more worried about reality, not metaphors. And the reality is, under these laws that they're proposing, is that wages can be cut and jobs will remain insecure. And that's a real issue affecting working Australians.
Of course not. This is all fine. Move along. Talk about the evil Conservatives. And will McManus be challenged and harassed by the Canberra-based media for accepting such standards in political debate? You know the answer to that too. And now look at this, a new online ad from Labor.
I mean, that's a matter for the Premier.
That's a matter for the Queensland Government.
And that's a matter for the Premier to deal with.
That's a matter that I'll raise with other Premiers and Chief Ministers.
Well, that's really a question to the Premier.
That's a matter I'm happy to take up with the other Premiers and Chief Ministers.
That's entirely a matter for the states.
When there is a public health pandemic, then they are things that Marriage from Victoria.
You know, I don't hold a hose, mate.
So weak, so obviously desperate. Do you think Labor will now be pursued over this? I mean, perhaps the press pack might say that if Labor are into accountability on pandemic management, then they'd look at Victoria. More than 800 deaths, 6 months of lockdown and Premier Daniel Andrews dodging any responsibility. But that won't happen either, will it? The left can run any political attack. They can be offensive, they can undermine the very country they represent, they can be wrong, or they can be absurdly hypocritical. But it doesn't create a media pile-on. It just feeds into the dominant media narrative. It has ever been thus, I know, but it's getting worse, isn't it?